Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I've got Dr. Cashell with me, and we're just going to ask some questions and learn about this amazing technology. Start with, tell me a little something about yourself.
Oh, it's hard to pick just one thing. I guess I've never been one to be subject to peer pressure. So I've always been kind of an independent thinker, been really just like very goal oriented and very much like what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And so that's like integrity is really important to me, and being truthful and being able to share the truth and no matter what, my goal is always to help people make the very best decisions for their health, no matter what.
Okay. And I know you're also very hardworking.
Yes. Yes. And we like to do lots of home projects. I'm always keeping my husband busy with something. So lots of DIY stuff. If I wasn't into health, I would totally be into like decorating and rebuilding and doing projects.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what is your background as far as education and
So
schooling?
I have a molecular biology and a chemistry undergrad, or dual molecular biology and chemistry undergrad degrees, and then decided I wanted to do grad school. And so I went to pharmacy school. So I have a doctorate in pharmacology, and then I worked as a disease state manager, so managing people's chronic diseases in the clinical setting.
Okay.
And I have an infectious disease specialty as well.
Wow, cool. So these patches, why did you start using them? How did this all come about?
Yeah, so in 2022, September 21st, actually, my daughter had just a freak accident and ended up with a skull fracture and a brain hemorrhage. And in the 7 months that followed that, we were trying anything that I could find that had any chance of helping her recover. So, we felt like we lost everything on that day, or lost our daughter on that day, and we're trying just desperately to get her back to health and to be back the way she was before the accident. So we did hyperbaric oxygen, we did nootropics, we did brain tap, we did neural feedback, we did the hyperbaric oxygen chamber. She dove 3 days a week for 2 hours at a time. And then on Tuesday and Thursday, she would go to speech, PT, and OT. Wow. And then in between that, we did chiropractic, and we did all the brain tap, and just anything that we thought maybe could help her brain recover. That's what we were working on. And got to a point where she went back to school, and she started back with a special needs plan, a 504, and she was failing 6th grade. The school called us in, had to sit down in February, and told us that she was going to have to repeat 6th grade, that she wasn't meeting the minimum standards. And my husband looked at me when we got home, and he's like, well, you got to find something to fix her. And I thought, I've tried everything. I don't know anything else.
Right.
And so I kind of just gave it to God, and I said, okay, God, like if there's something, you've got to bring it to me. Like, I don't know what else to do. And 3 days later, my neighbor called me and said, did you see that text I sent you about these patches that my daughter's wearing? And I said, no. And so I looked, and she'd sent me like a 5-minute video on these phototherapy patches. But really what caught my attention was the results that her daughter had. So Jaylyn they've been our neighbors for years. We've known Jaylyn since she was about 3 years old. And she was 16 at this time, functioning as a 4-year-old. And really she has a genetic condition called Cornelia de Lange. Very special kid. Just, she didn't have the ability to think about task processing nor like verbal reasoning. So she was drinking out of a sippy cup because if she tipped the cup, she didn't realize that the milk would spill. So at 16, she wasn't brushing her own teeth. She wasn't self-grooming. She had a lot of behavioral issues, wasn't able to go to school ever. And in 2 months of wearing the patches, she tested into 4th grade.
That's amazing.
That
is amazing.
And I thought, I need that for my child, you know. And so we had gone the opposite. We had a perfectly, you know, healthy honor student who had this accident and now couldn't meet minimum standards for her
Right.
age. So I started the patches. So I started researching the patches. Really, I thought anything to do with stem cells was going to be, you know, $20,000, $50,000. I had no idea. So before I decided to do it, I wanted to make sure that there was evidence backing that it did what it says it does. So I was really surprised when about a month later I found out that it was only $100 for a month's worth. So
You were like, what?
I was like, why didn't you tell me that? I would have started that a lot sooner. But so we got into them for our daughter. We had results. Actually, the first day that Elena wore the patches, she slept through the night for the first time. And within about 2 weeks, she started to get her personality back. And around 2 months, she was functioning back to normal. She was getting 90% on her tests or better with no accommodations needed.
Wow.
So she's had a complete recovery. We patched her for about 6 months and never have needed the patches again. So I saw what they were doing for her, and people have always asked me about different things for their own health. And so it just seemed natural that if I found something amazing that I wanted to share with others. And so it was very organic. People would just ask, like, hey, I have this issue. And I said, well, do you know what your stem cells can do?
Right.
And it just kind of snowballed.
You just fell into it.
Yeah, yeah. Didn't ever intend to do this as a job. This was just a happy accident. I would say God just kept sending people to me that needed help.
That's amazing. So would you say somebody who concussion, because all my kids played sports, and concussions are very, very common and can have lasting damage.
Yeah.
Like, would you say this would be helpful for someone who?
I would say it would be non-negotiable for me, knowing what a brain injury can look like long term, like that, because that was part of my research, was what happens now, like. Right. After a brain injury like Elena's, then what? So she had a severe concussion, obviously, as part of the brain injury. The statistics are horrifying with depression and anxiety and all sorts of mood disorders. They've even looked at like the ability of people to maintain like what we call like a normal standard of living, with having a job and children, and so I didn't want that future for my child.
Right.
So I feel really blessed that that's not going to be her future. That we found this, and we were able to heal her, and that she's not going to have to suffer from those brain injury long-term effects like so many kids.
Yes, because that does have a lot of lasting impressions that people don't even realize.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you explain how these patches work?
So it's super simple, believe it or not. So our human bodies emit light. So we are an electric being. We emit a heat or a light energy. It's why we're 98.6 degrees. And it's also why you can see a person on night vision goggles.
Right.
So what the inventor did was look at the effects of light on the human body. So phototherapy has been studied for thousands of years. And when you go out into the sun, for example, the sunlight, one wavelength of light of the sunlight hits your skin and you make vitamin D. Another wavelength of light hits your skin and you make melanin and you get a suntan, right? So those are examples of light-mediated chemical changes in the body. So the inventor of these patches was studying different effects or different frequencies and their effects on the human body. And what he found was that each wavelength of light has different effects. And so the X39 patch, for example, reflects a certain wavelength of light back onto your body, onto your skin. It doesn't have to touch your skin. As long as it's within a couple of inches of your skin, they work. And that light signal turns on your body's ability to produce something called GHK copper peptide. And that copper peptide has been well studied from hundreds of universities and institutions across the world because it increases stem cell activity. which is why it has effects on every single part of your body. So there's studies, if you wanted to get into the weeds, you could really go to town and look like, okay, what effect does GHK have on the heart, on the muscles, on the lungs, on the, on the skin, any part of your body. Every part of the body has been studied on GHK or with GHK copper peptide.
Okay, so they've been studying that for many, many years.
Many years, yeah. The effects on the body from GHK copper peptide has been well established. I think the last time I looked, there was 26 pages of studies on PubMed.
Okay. So is there scientific evidence? Like, people want facts, people want evidence. Is there scientific evidence that it works?
Yes. So the first question is really, does wearing the patch affect GHK copper peptide? And so LifeWave is responsible for doing those studies, proving that their patch increases GHK copper peptide, which they have done. There's at least a dozen studies just on X39 showing that it increases GHK copper peptide. The rest of the story is, what does GHK copper peptide do? And the cool thing about having so many independent institutions and universities around the world looking at those effects is that LifeWave had nothing to do with their results. They didn't sponsor the study. These are universities and institutions or companies that are looking at what effect does this GHK copper peptide have on the body. And so you can infer that if you increase GHK copper peptide by wearing the patch, then these effects that have been studied or well established are true.
Okay.
So lots and lots of evidence that the patches do what they say they're going to do.
Okay.
Which is probably why we see the results that we see. Because we see, amazing benefits. Every single week there's that miracle call, Monday morning miracle call, and I'm just blown away by some of the stories. Like, I had no idea it could do that. It's an amazing, has an amazing effect through the whole.
Well, I have my own little testimony. When I met you, my shoulder hurt. I couldn't, putting on a seatbelt was painful, or washing my hair, or, anything where I had to go above, this much, it hurt. So I just figured I was going to need surgery because I'd already had it on the shoulder, knew what was happening, but I wanted to wait until fall to change my insurance because my premium, my copay for my physical therapy was $100.
Ouch.
So I would have to do that 3 times a week.
Yeah,
that would get very expensive.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, we'll wait till fall. And in the meantime, God brought you in my life and started doing the patches. And now I don't need the surgery.
That's amazing.
I don't need the physical therapy.
That's amazing.
It really is amazing.
I have heard so many stories just like that. And I think that's how I really got into this, is because, when I was a kid and I thought, what do I want to be when I grow up? I got into medicine because I really wanted to help people. Mm-hmm. And, I've spent more than 20 years in traditional medicine, and I feel like I didn't really get anybody help. Nobody really gets better. They come back every single month for a refill.
That's a question I have later.
Yeah, nobody gets better. They just keep coming back for refills every single month. And then next year, they're going to come back for not one refill, but they're going to come back and they're going to have 3 or 4 prescriptions.
Right.
And so it's this evolution of just not healing the body. And your body is capable of healing itself if we just give it the resources.
Right.
And so I feel like this product is finally given me the opportunity to truly help people the way I wanted to.
So one of the, my daughter is a nurse, so she was, of course, very scientific, very skeptical. Mom, you're crazy. There's no way this works.
Yeah.
So she started looking into the studies, and she said, the numbers are too small. How do you address that?
Yeah, so sometimes we get confused, and I will confess that statistics was not my favorite subject. But the point of a study is to show a difference between the treatment group and the placebo group, right? So what we're trying to get is a difference, that we a measurable change. They call it a statistical significance.
Okay.
So we want a statistical significance that it wasn't happened by chance, right? That this happened on this treatment group not by chance that didn't happen by the placebo group. So oftentimes in traditional medicine, we see these studies with maybe 1,000 people. Well, if you look at their p-value, they just barely get the p-value as the statistical significance.
Okay.
So they barely reach statistical significance with 1,000 people. The reason they had to do 1,000 people is because they needed to get that significant change between the groups, meaning that they took 1,000 people and they only had a little tiny bit of change. What's amazing with LifeWave is that we see this huge change between these groups, even though we only are studying it in maybe 100 people.
Okay.
So don't get caught up on how many people are in the study.
Mm-hmm.
You're really looking at that p-value or that statistical significance, not in the number of participants. So yes, you need more than 2, right? And you need more than 10, and usually more than 20. So really we're looking to see a change between 50 to 100. If you have to get to 500, means there was just a tiny change between the two groups.
Okay,
so the
so
bigger
the bigger the number,
change,
the less difference between
That's
the
right.
two groups.
Yeah.
Interesting. I learned something new. All right, so what are some benefits that you see like everybody gets? Or almost everybody?
Yeah, so almost unanimously, I see improvements in sleep and energy levels. So everybody can feel something. The cool thing about LifeWave, and I will confess, I've been into health for years. I kind of went natural back in 2010. So about 15 years of really focusing on like what nutrients do my body need, or does my body need, taking different supplements, of course exercising. All of the vitamins that I've ever taken, I know they're good for me, but I've never been able to feel a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And so the cool thing about the patches is that, within my first 3 days of wearing the patches, I was sleeping through the night, which was significant because I used to sleep like a rotisserie chicken, trying to get comfortable. My back hurt, my hips hurt, so trying to get comfortable through the night. So within the first couple of days myself, I've noticed the improvement in sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And truly, that's something that everybody kind of notices. The sleep and energy are pretty much unanimous.
Okay. And that's interesting because they're opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you wear the patch during the day, and then you do sleep well at night. And that, for me anyway, the pain relief really within my first week was lasting 24 hours, even though I was only wearing the patch for 12.
Okay. Let's see. How long does it typically take for people to see results? And do you need to continue to maintain patching to keep what you've gained? So let's say I'm patching for my knee. How long is that going to take? And then do I just quit patching once my knee's fixed?
Yeah. So there's a couple nuances to that question, because of course it depends what your goals are, or maybe what cells are damaged. So the root cause of all of your symptoms are cells that are not working properly. So when your body on a cellular level is working the way it's supposed to, you're not going to have any symptoms, right? If every cell in my knee is working the way it should be, then I'm not going to have knee pain. If every cell in my heart is working the way it should be, then I'm not going to have chest pain, or I'm not going to have a heart issue, because all of those cells are functioning, right? So our goal is to heal the tissue. So X39 is stimulating GHK copper peptide,
Mm-hmm.
which turns on the production of your repair and regeneration cells, your stem cells. They can differentiate into any type of cell in your body. So as they differentiate, those repair cells, that little repair army, goes to work and heals or regenerates the tissues or the cells that are damaged in you. So sometimes it can be frustrating, because if your complaint is your shoulder and it's going and working on your heart or your kidneys or your liver, you can
Something you may not even realize you have an issue with.
That's right. You may be frustrated because you're not feeling the pain relief in your shoulder, but meanwhile these other things are getting better. As such, every type of cell in your body has a different lifespan. So a red blood cell, for instance, lives about 120 days. So we wouldn't anticipate seeing all new red blood cells until 120 days have passed since those red blood cells were generated. So those cells that you made today are going to be circulating for 120 days. That's 4 months from now. So sometimes it's frustrating because you feel like it's not an instant fix, but we have to give our body time to heal. So it depends. Now, once we do that, once that tissue has healed, that tissue is repaired and regenerated, just like my daughter's brain, she's never needed to patch for her brain anymore. Her brain tissue has healed. So she doesn't patch anymore. She didn't go back to having memory loss. She didn't go back to having headaches. She didn't go back to having all of those vision issues that she had. She really, once we gave it the 6 months, she didn't have any need to patch. Now, if she sprains her ankle or hurts herself on the trampoline, then certainly we're going to give her a patch. And she's my biggest patch believer. So she wants a patch for anything and everything. But yeah, it just kind of depends on what our goals are.
We have a joke in our head. It's not even a joke because it's true. Yeah. But anybody who gets an injury or has any kind of problem, put a patch on it.
Yeah.
Put a patch on it.
Oh, you
can. Patch on it.
Well, I was gonna say, you can see I had one on my knee. I went running this morning and I was like, oh, my knee kind of hurts. I think I'll put a patch on it.
Put a patch on it.
Yeah, it's how we deal with things in our house too.
Okay. What would you say to someone who says, this sounds interesting, I kind of like it, but I can't afford it?
Budget is always an issue, and I will be the first to admit that I am the most frugal person ever. I don't even buy spaghetti sauce if it's not on sale, okay? So I get it. I totally understand. However, I lost both parents in their 60s. My dad was 62 and my dad was 64. And they never took their health serious. They never invested in their health. And so for me, I don't want that for my family. I don't want that for my children. I don't want my kids to lose their parents in their 60s. So for me, making the investment now for my health is so much better. It is worth the $100. A month for the patches. And if you buy the maintenance kits, if you're a wholesale member or brand partner, you can buy them at wholesale and you can get them down to more like $83 a month supply. And then certainly, if you share them with other people, you tell the people that you care about, and then they're purchasing, then you're getting money off of your purchase. So for me, of all the supplements I take, not only is this the first one that I could feel a difference in, but this is the first one that's like life-changing, not only in our own household, but now in thousands of people that I've patched. It is life-changing. So look at how much money it saved you, just off shoulder surgery and PT.
I didn't have to meet that deductible. I didn't have to pay for the. I mean, I would have had to do the out-of-pocket max, which was. I don't even know what my out-of-pocket max was, but it would have been thousands. I probably would have had to spend $5,000 and then the physical therapy. So it's saved me a lot of money.
That's pretty much the rest of your life patching.
True.
To break even. So you can pretty much patch for the next 40 years to break even.
Money.
Yeah.
Good point. Okay, so how would you address concerns from people who are skeptical because it is a multi-level marketing or a network marketing group?
Well, you know what, I can't fault them at all because I've probably felt the same way about multi-level marketing or network marketing. That being said, I've been on the pharmaceutical and the traditional medicine side of things for years, and so it's not much different. The only difference is that instead of big pharma or a corporation or your insurance company or your doctor getting the kickback for the medications that you're taking, it's your friends and family, and it's kind of spread out, right? First of all, advertising dollars have to be spent. Right. So this company, network marketing companies, pay individuals to spread the word and to do the advertising, because obviously, one, we're a trusted source, right? Like nobody's going to tell their family member to buy something that doesn't work.
Right.
So it's a much better way to network. Number two, if it was, there's Tylenol on the shelf or, BioFreeze. BioFreeze has to pay for us to carry their product. So they're paying us to put their product on the shelf, on the third shelf or the fourth shelf. There's actually a price
as a
difference.
store, when you were in a pharmacy, BioFreeze had to pay you to put their stuff on the shelf.
That's right.
Okay.
And then we make a profit because obviously we're selling it more than we purchase it for. So there's that markup. In the prescriptions that you think you're only paying $5 a month for, you're really paying in your health plan, right? So you're paying maybe you have really fabulous insurance, it's $500 a month, or maybe it's $1,500 a month. You're paying for that $5 prescription for not only for yourself, but for all the other people in your health plan, right? Because you may only have 1 or 2, but they might have 10 or 20. And then the pharmaceutical companies have been giving kickbacks to, to doctors. Back in the, I'll date myself, but in pharmacy school in the early 2000s, the average primary care physician made $13,500 per drug rep that they saw. And think there's dozens of companies that send their reps into their office. And that's just bonuses, trips, speaking fees, just it's the way it works. I mean, it's no different than lettuce, right? We have to pay 99 cents for the lettuce at the grocery store. Well, maybe not anymore. But, I'm sure the grocery store didn't pay 99 cents, right? They probably paid 10 cents. So it's just,
it gets marked up along the way because a lot of people touch that lettuce. That's
right. Yeah. So LifeWave's really nice because it's direct. So we don't have to ship any of the products. Like if someone orders, I've had people order from Australia. LifeWave ships from the distribution center in Australia. They had it 2 days later.
Wow.
I don't have to deal with any of the product handling or shipping or anything. It's all handled for us.
Okay.
LifeWave owns from top to bottom. So not only do they own the patents, but they also own the entire manufacturing process and then all of the distribution process. So we don't subcontract any part of the process out. So one other thing about network marketing that I think was really cool is that the inventor had a bad experience with a network marketing company. So our president and CEO, David Schmidt, had a bad experience as a college student with a network marketing company. And so he was actually opposed to using network marketing for LifeWave.
Okay.
And when the first product, the energy enhancers, came to market, he actually was in the process of getting them on shelves at like a GNC. And looking to pay for advertising, looking to pay for shelf space. He decided to do a clinical study with the Stanford swim team. And in that process, the Stanford swim team coach saw such amazing results. In fact, if you don't recall, but all of the athletes within the first 2 weeks of wearing the patches beat their personal best record. So the coach was so amazed by the results with the energy enhancers that he talked to his friend, the Olympic swim coach, Richard Quick. And then of course, Richard Quick then, took it to his Olympic swimmers, and Michael Phelps and the entire U.S. Olympic swim team wore the patches in the 2008 Olympics. And thus the word of mouth networking was born. And so, the inventor really made a commitment to run this network marketing company different than other network marketing companies who have gotten a bad name. We kind of operate on the golden rule in this company. It's kind of do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. And so I really feel like there's a reason that LifeWave has been the #1 network marketing company for 2 years in a row. So,
and that's worldwide.
Worldwide, yeah. Fastest growing and #1 network marketing company.
Okay, thank you for that. So some people watching this video are very skeptical, I know you are, because you're thinking it's too good to be true. You can't wrap your head around how this possibly could work, and you've never even heard of red light therapy. You have no idea what copper peptides are.
Yeah.
You just don't understand any of this.
Yeah.
What do you tell that person?
You don't have to understand it to get the results. Pain is my favorite. It's the low-hanging fruit. Helping people with pain is very easy. So, finding someone or showing someone the benefits on pain, like you can feel the results. It's not like taking your vitamins where you just do it because it's good for you. Mm-hmm. So, I would say just try it. It will probably be the most rewarding thing that you've ever taken a chance on.
Okay. So this kind of goes into your being a pharmacist. We live in a society that has conditioned us to believe that if we swallow a pill or receive an injection, that's the only way we can receive any kind of benefits. You mentioned once that as a pharmacist, and earlier in the video you mentioned also that you see people come in, they get the prescriptions just year after year, and then they get more and more year after year, and they're not getting
better. Yeah.
How are the patches different? You kind of already touched on this.
Yeah. So what pharmaceuticals do really well is hide symptoms. So I always tease and say I would have a whole closet full of Band-Aids. I have Band-Aids for your blood pressure. I have Band-Aids for your kidneys. I have Band-Aids for your diabetes. I have Band-Aids for your depression. The reality is, as soon as you miss a pill, as soon as you stop taking that, whatever you're taking that pill for, the issue comes right back, and it's probably gotten worse from the 3 years ago or 10 years ago when you started taking the pill. So whether it's your cholesterol, your heart, your kidneys, your sugar, your depression, none of those things are fixed where they're just hidden. We just hide the symptoms. And so the patches work differently because we're actually affecting the body on a cellular level. So we're affecting the way your cells function. And when cells are functioning properly, then the symptoms of the disease go away. So whether that's symptoms of cholesterol or symptoms of heart disease or symptoms of knee pain, those are all, ideally, your body's regenerating and repairing, and that symptom then no longer is a symptom because the disease process, the diseased cells are no longer there.
Right, okay. That makes sense. Okay, so sometimes when I'm scrolling Facebook, I will see someone say, I have pain, or I have migraines, or I can't sleep, I haven't slept in days, or I've got a problem with my foot or my heart or whatever, right?
Yes.
And so I usually reach out because I want to help them.
Yeah.
Crickets. I hear nothing.
Yeah.
Or just a thumbs up. But then they don't research it, they don't look into it. Like, they're just very skeptical, I think.
Yeah.
How do you address that? And how can I help them? Because I'm not going to nag people.
Right.
I'm not going to keep sending things because I kind of already put it out there and that's not my personality.
Yeah.
But I want to help them. So how do I best approach things like that?
Even myself, my neighbor, when she called me that day, 3 days after we found out Elena was going to fail, I look back, she had texted me information probably 7 or 8 times about the patches, and I completely ignored it.
So you were one of those people.
I was one of those people. I kick myself now, of course, because had I, started Elena a month earlier, we would, 2 months earlier, we would have everything would have happened quicker. She would have been better, faster. But, this is a totally new, as of right now, this is a totally new way to heal their body. And truly, they've been taught their whole lives that you just pop a pill and it lasts 8 hours and then you got to pop another pill. Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't ever feel to the average person, myself included, that there is a fix for them. And so I think you have to remember that they're somewhat in a hopeless position and they're kind of like, well, this is my life now.
Right.
I thought my life was totally normal. I thought I was normal, like for my own, not my daughters, that was not normal. But I felt like for myself, I felt like I was in good shape. I felt like it was normal to have back pain. I didn't realize that that wasn't normal, you know? I didn't realize that I shouldn't be sleeping like a rotisserie chicken and waking up in pain. I used to call the bed my like torture chamber. I was like, I gotta get out of this thing. Any position too long used to kill my back. So I had scoliosis. And so, you know, it was painful, but it was just normal for me. I
Right.
never thought that it could be any different. And so
Because it was your whole life.
it was my whole life. I didn't know that that wasn't normal. You know, the same thing with, I had Hashimoto's. I didn't know that it wasn't normal to be tired and like fall asleep at stoplights at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh,
like,
geez.
so I didn't know. I mean, you know, I just didn't know what I didn't know. And so I would just say, you know, be graceful with them. They don't know any better. They've never seen anything like this.
Right.
Now, I will tell you, you know, in 2 years, I've been wearing patches for 2 years. Now I see them everywhere. Like
Oh.
strangers in the grocery store, I'll walk by and I see somebody walk by with a patch on. You know, I'll see somebody with a patch on in the airport. It's just, you see them everywhere. And so I think as time goes on,
And people start learning about it.
they're gonna be like, oh yeah, I remember when Giddy said that. Like I should have started it back then. They'll be the same way as I am.
Right.
But it has gained huge popularity. One thing that's worth mentioning is we were doing about $1 million a month in the USA when I started 2.5 years ago. We now are doing between $60 and $80 million a month.
Wow.
And that
That is huge
change,
growth.
yeah, that change doesn't happen because they don't work.
Right.
If they didn't work, I mean, there's no commercials on TV.
True.
You can't buy them at the grocery store. So you're hearing about it from a friend who's telling you because they care about you. Or they've had an amazing result and they want to share the benefit with you. So now that you're starting to see them everywhere, you're seeing, you know, that growth. It's a testament to the product's ability to work.
So you bring up the grocery store. When people are done watching this, they're going to start Googling
Yeah.
LifeWave, and they're going to see you can get it on Walmart.com for
Yeah.
like $25 or something.
You can get it on Amazon now too.
Yeah.
So here's a word of caution. Amazon is now an authorized seller from LifeWave, so you can only purchase projects. We only sell patches to brand partners, to retail customers, preferred customers. Everything has to come directly from LifeWave. So if your return address does not say LifeWave, you probably are not getting the product you think you're
So when they go on Amazon, they want to make sure it's a...
So now we're an authorized, so now no seller on Amazon can sell LifeWave products
Okay,
except
so if
for
it's-
LifeWave. Now I will tell you, if you order it on Amazon, you're going to pay significantly more. So you're going to pay $179 on Amazon. If you order it from lifewave.com, you'll get randomly assigned to a distributor. So your neighbor, or your friend, or the person who cares about you on Facebook does not get the credit. They will randomly give the commission to someone else, and you can purchase through lifewave.com. If you want to do that, you could purchase it for $149.
Okay.
If you decide to become a preferred customer or a brand partner, which is essentially like buying it at wholesale, then you can purchase it at $99 for a month's supply. So to me, it doesn't make sense to purchase it anywhere except through a distributor
Right.
to get that $99. The advantage to going through a brand partner that you know, like, and trust, you know, would be just the product how-to. How am I supposed to use this? What
Right.
are the nuances of it? Like, where do I find more information? Going through somebody that you personally know would be what I recommend
Someone
doing.
you feel comfortable texting, asking questions to,
Yeah.
and guiding you.
Yes, exactly. And somebody who's knowledgeable about it. You know, like, you just don't want to buy it off the internet with no customer support.
So the stuff that's on like Walmart.com,
Yeah. So just like with any product on Walmart.com or Temu or any of those places or eBay, if you're only paying $15 or $25 and LifeWave only sells it at the lowest you can possibly get it is $83 a sleeve, do you really think it's legit?
yeah, probably. If
Because-
it sounds too good to be true, it's too good to be true.
I mean, as a brand partner, I'm not selling it on Walmart for 1/4 of what I cost me,
Right.
and then I have to ship it to you. Like
Right.
that doesn't make any sense. Why would you get something online for a quarter of the price that it costs in real life?
Right.
So
True.
probably not going to be the real thing.
Okay. Let's see. All right. So I've heard you say, I believe this is the future of medicine.
I do.
What do you mean by that? Because when I heard you say that, and I was like, oh, she knows something.
Yeah. So I believe that our bodies are capable of healing, and that if we were able to give them the resources to heal, then we wouldn't need these daily pills, right? You wouldn't need a medication for your blood pressure. If we were looking at what is actually causing your high blood pressure, what is actually causing your insulin resistance, what's actually causing your cholesterol problems.
Right.
So I believe that medicine in general is going to transition from these Band-Aids to healing at the root cause of disease. And the root cause of disease is cells that are not functioning properly. And so if we can get your body and we can get your cells to function the way that they were intended to, then all of those other things that we're using Band-Aid pills for goes away. So truly, the future of medicine is giving the body the raw materials or the resources to fully repair itself.
There's a lot of false information out there, because I think, that game telephone, right? So I tell you something and you tell
Right.
someone something and so I had a friend reach out to me, and she said that she was told that we get stem cells from the sun.
Oh.
So I think they're taking the patches, the analogy of how it works with that's how we get stem cells is from the sun, which is not true.
Right.
How do you help people with those types of things? Like, where do we get education to learn more about LifeWave?
Well, there's a few resources that are available. I would say probably the best information is available right from LifeWave. In our back office resources section, you can access many of the clinical trials. There's hundreds of webinars from David Schmidt himself explaining the technology and how it works, and I think that would probably be the number one place to go.
Go to the source.
Go to the source and get information. That would probably be the very best. But you're right, part of it is that our bodies are capable of making stem cells, and we are electric beings, and so we do get benefits from sunlight. We do get benefits from having our feet bare on the ground. We do get health benefits from the foods that we eat. Most of the foods.
Right.
That's a whole nother show.
The real foods.
Yeah, real foods. So yes, all of those things are really important. There are nutrients that we know contribute to helping your body make stem cells, right? So yes, your body is responsible for making these stem cells, whether you wear a patch or you drink your own urine. Which
is that an option?
That is an option. There's a whole following
okay,
that
I'll stick with the patch.
I was telling my husband that, he's like, "Oh my God, I think I'm gonna throw up just thinking about it." I said, "I know, but yeah, they drink their aged urine to get stem cells. So
Okay.
you apparently urinate out stem cells. So
Okay.
yeah, I'll put a patch on. Thanks.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Give me I'll just put a little sticker on. So
you have your patch right there.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
this is one of them. This is a glutathione.
Okay, last question. What is your favorite thing about LifeWave?
Ooh. My favorite thing about doing LifeWave has been being a part of so many people's kind of miraculous health changes. That to me, there has been nothing more rewarding than, Thanksgiving morning, especially. I got just dozens of text messages from people that I just, barely know. And they're just like, "I'm so thankful I found you. And thank you so much for helping me and changing my life." And to me, that's what keeps me doing this. I love that. I mean, I feel so blessed just to have my daughter's recovery.
Right.
And my own recovery is amazing. But to be able to to give that now to other people has really been probably one of my greatest accomplishments in life so far. So
That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah, I love that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for taking your time to come over and talk with us.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions about LifeWave, or if you want to know more, reach out to me or whoever shared this video. And we look forward to talking to you about it more in the future.
Thank you.